So our objective today is to understand what document development lifecycle for a technical writing team means. Document development lifecycle, also known as DDLC, is nothing but a process, a designed process to create, manage, maintain documents from initiation point, from conception to completion. This is equivalent to your SDLC. SDLC stands for what? Software development lifecycle, which is followed by your development team, testing team, maintenance team, implementation team, and this is followed throughout the organizations to develop software. These are the phases of development. Similarly, we have around 6 main phases in document development lifecycle. Now, we are not just going to look at the phases, the generic, typical, uh, recognized phases of DDLC, but also we will try to understand how these phases of DDLC can be curated, tailored to fit our organization. Not each and every company has similar resources, similar kind of effort and resources. It differs which team you work for, which organization you work for, and as a writer, you implement it as per the needs and availability of your specific organization. So we'll come back to this in the later stages. First, we'll understand the phases, the general meaning of DDLC. Yeah, let's go back. Now let's try to understand each phase from research to publish. Let's start with research and plan. This is also known as analysis phase. You can frame it however you want. So what this is the starting point. This is where a writer initiates the process. What is the first step in DDLC? It's not something that as a writer you do, but it is something that you receive. And what's that? Whether it is your project manager, your team lead, uh, client, any stakeholder who becomes your requester. That's your requirement. The first part that you see, identify requirements. First you understand who is the requester and what is the requirement. In requirement process, what do you determine? You try to understand the purpose. What is the purpose of the document that I'm writing for? Who is going to be the reader, the audience, the target audience of this document, and what is the objective of the document itself? Purpose. Okay, you are writing, for example, let's say we are writing an installation manual. What's the purpose of that manual is to make the reader understand how do you install so and so software. That's your first point. If it's an installation guide, you understand its purpose, the objective of the document, what is it going to solve. Then you try to understand your audience, the reader of the document. Who is it going to be? Is it a stakeholder who has absolutely no knowledge about the software, or is it going to be some technical resource that has basic idea but just needs help in navigation and the complex part of execution, which is installation in this case, in this example. So the objective of the document should be curated to the reader. Are you submitting this document to, let's say, client? What are the details that are absolutely vital? And understand, in technical writing you don't put content just for the sake of it. Every content, every word, every section needs to have meaning. So this is where the research and planning happens. You try to understand the requirements, your audience, the actual purpose of the document, and you research this part. You talk to people. You specifically try to talk to your requester, whoever has requested you the document. You try to get as much as you need. Once you're done with your requirements research, then you move on to researching the information, the actual information that needs to be put in the document. Where do you get the information? What are the tools? What are the technologies? Where is the information available? Is it available in some written form that you need to elaborate, or is it, and mostly it is, with an SME, an expert of the product or the process that you are going to write about? These people who give you information, irrespective of their organization titles, designations, they are always referred to as your SME, technical writers SME. If a sales person, if he's the one who's going to give you information. For example, you need some company brand details and you get from sales. The sales guy becomes your SME. SME here doesn't necessarily mean it is going to be a technical expert. Could be expert of anything, not just technical. Could be expert of the domain itself. So you try to research and gather information from your SMEs. You have scope and timeline. This should be the first priority. Once you have your requirements, once you have understood uh, what is your purpose of the document, where are you going to gather the information from, how much time you need. This the first two parts of it: identifying requirements and gathering information. Once you have the understanding of these two, then you define the scope. Okay, what is it that the document reaches out to? What is the total scope of the document? And what is my timeline? Once you have all these three criteria in place, then you move on to the second phase, which is organize and draft. This is the primal part of your writing. This is where you start your initial draft. You gather information. How do you gathering information doesn't end with the first phase. It is the starting point. You identify your SMEs, then you schedule uh, meetings, interviews with the SMEs, and yes, you keep gathering information. So this organize and draft is not your final version. Obviously not. This is your initial information, not the final information. You put the information on the document as you gather it. You can call this as your rough draft, the first draft. Once you have this in place, once you have written your first draft, then you move on to improving the style. This is very important. Content style. This is where you focus. You do your self-critical analysis and conclude whether the language that you are using and that you are supposed to use is as per the writer's intent, that is the technical writer, you yourself. This is how the language must look like, and this is how the target reader's type fits into. The language could be formal, informal, persuasive, plain language. This is where you decide and curate your document with specific content. On to the fourth phase, designing the document. Yes, here is where you design the document in its infographics, charts, diagrams to improve the efficiency of the language, to break down hard, complex topics into simpler explanations with the use of infographics, diagrams, your screenshots, your navigation images. This is where you do that, the fourth phase. And once you have your document, once you have completed all the four, your research and planning, the first one, yes, and you have drafted your first draft, then you move to improve your style, the language itself, then you have designed the document to make it simple, to make it aesthetic, then you move to the last but one phase, revise and edit. Perhaps the most important phase of DDLC lies here. Now try to understand here editing and revising. This is very dynamic to writers because of the availability of a technical writing team. There are many writers in the industry who are individual contributors. So what do? Do they review it themselves? Doesn't help because of two reasons. One, the author of the document itself is not as efficient as another writer reviewing that document. For example, I have a team with just three writers. So I write the document. I For language and proofreading, I give it to another writer, and he takes care of just that part to analyze the clarity. How concise is the document? Are there any grammar flaws? How consistent is the language, the outlook, the design depiction of the document? In the absence of another writer, you go to the next best person. But your DDLC doesn't give you that option. It says that a language expert must review the document to identify your language flaws. So this is where we'll see in the second part of the video how do we curate it as per our organization. And even during the revise and edit part, it's not just the content in terms of language that we see. We also get the document reviewed by the technical experts. Their job is not to look at the language or the clarity of content. Their job is to identify technical flaws. If you're writing about a feature of a software, the technical expert checks whether the content in the document matches what exactly the feature does or does not. So if they if these technical reviewers identify flaws, you incorporate their feedback, rectify the document. That should be your first starting point for revise and editing. Get it reviewed by a technical expert for the core part of the document, not the language, but the technical analysis of the document. Once that's done, you move it to your testing. How do you test a document? You test the document by giving it to someone who's not expert on the subject of the document, but is able to read the document and execute the instructions or steps. Testing is not applicable to all documents. It mainly is for documents which are instructional, which ask the reader to do something, to execute something. This is where user testing mostly comes into picture. Else, you move the document to proofreading. The first part was your technical review. That could be your SME or a technical expert, your product owner. Once that's done, you move it to proofreading. Proofreading is to catch the language, language flaws. And I have seen in my experience that organizations switch these two review sequence as per their understanding. It could be the proofreading first, then the technical review, or it could be the technical review first, then proofreading. And the last but very important part, this is a bit lengthy, but stick with me. I'll make it as simple as possible. Approval process. Approval process is the final part of your revise edit. It is somewhere between your revise and edit and publish and maintain. The last two phases. It is between these two phases. Approval process. Once all your technical flaws are rectified, your language errors are done, you have reviewed, you're confident the document has no errors, you move forward to your approver. It's generally termed as a sign off. You get a sign off from the approver. These are generally in the top management people. Sometimes it could be your product owner, it could be as high as head of the department. It depends on each organization. So you obtain the approval from key stakeholders. It could be one or more than one personal. And once you have that, now the writer is equipped to distribute the document. So distribution strategy. Okay, this is something it's part of DDLC, but when you come to an organization, it is already decided. If not, if this is something that you are going to implement first. If you are implementing the DDLC first, then you can decide on that. You can analyze the strategy. What's the best strategy that I want to distribute the document? What's my method? Where am I going to put this? Is it going to be a simple MS Word to convert it to a PDF document that I'm going to share through mail or upload somewhere in a company website or a shared folder? This is where you decide. There are n number of channels. There are content management systems where you just write your document and click on a button, publish, done. You have tools like Confluence, you have Document 360. There are n number. I mean, there are multiple method and channels. So select the one that is most curated and suits your organization needs. Now the third one, implementation plan. Now once you have published the document, this could be automated. This part is to broadcast or announce that this document has been published to the specific stakeholders who need the document, who may not know that this type of content is available. So you publish the document. Most of the times this is something that's automated. I have come across even in SharePoint, you can just automate where you upload a document and you can send a notification to specific emails of your organization, and it is notified that the document is now ready. So document management, again, this is linked to your second part, distribution strategy. So the channel and the method that you use, that specific tool or technology must have the feature to manage your version. Version is nothing but version control, where you have new updates in the document and you make changes, and the old version is replaced by the new one. Many think that you need specific high level tools for this, but it's not so. This is even available in our MS Office suite. You just need to learn and understand about version control. It is straightforward, where a user can either persist with the latest version or roll back as in par with the development teams. If there is a feature that has been rolled back, I mean, uh, they have gone back on a certain feature, so it's your document, the previous one, that comes into picture. If the feature is new and it needs to be inculcated, you update your document. This is called your document maintenance. A document once published is not the end of a documentation cycle. Yes, there are some documents which have expiry. For example, I'm unable to think about one for technical writing, but if you see a content writing, let's say a newsletter, every one of you, I hope, if you have worked in an organization, you know that every month or every quarterly you receive your newsletters, and newsletter is a document that is expired. Once it's done with the time frame for the quarter, it's published and that's done. You don't need to maintain the document. But mostly when you talk about technical documents, a living product that your company has, a living software that your company sells, there are always going to be new features, new capabilities. So based on that, you manage your document. The published document needs to be tracked and maintained. That's what your final final step here. Periodic review is nothing but a way. Schedule regular reviews to ensure the document remains accurate and up to date. It's nothing but to make the document relevant and reliable. This is part of TDLC. Many writers assume that any new features or any new updates in software needs to come through a request to them and then they go and update. No, it doesn't work that way. As a writer, we need to have a frequency. It could be 3 months based on the functioning of the specific product or application, based on its functioning and the knowledge of the writer, how frequently it has its changes. You set up your reviews with your technical personnel, and you have periodic review of the document to ensure that it stays on track. So this is the basic outline. I mean, this is the brief overview of the DDLC process, these 6 steps. But this is just about what do you need to do. If you are designing a DDLC process for your organization, you also need to have clear cut objectives. How do I implement this? If I'm going to, for example, revise and edit the previous phase, who exactly, how exactly am I going to do it? That's what we are going to move on to now. Now this is the DDLC process that I am working on. This is not finalized yet. I am tailoring it as per the availability of resources in my organization. So this is just a sample, not the final version. I am still working on this. But yes, let's look at each and every phase of this and try to understand how we can implement DDLC in real time. In my organization, the first part, research and plan, my requester here is always one of the project managers. I work as individual contributor, so I liaise with different teams. I am not fixed to a specific project or team. I have to serve across teams and projects. So it could be my supervisor. They come through my supervisor or directly reach out to me. The first thing that I do is, okay, if this is the manual or if you need a release notes, whichever technical document that they need, the first thing that I'm going to ask from them is SME. Provide me an SME for this so that I can gather information. And sometimes, along with SME, if it is a straightforward application that I'm going to write about, whether it is a feature document or it's going to be user manual, I will go ahead and ask to provide me test environment so I can learn it first, and it makes our job much easier. I'm sure if you guys are experienced writers, you would have definitely done this. Get test environment of the specific tool that you are going to write about, so that you can play around, use it for even the screenshots that you need, the images, and try to actually understand the process of the software. Then yes, here, for me, I mostly work with this PDF Word file. Sometimes I go and use Confluence. But- So it's specific to your organization. You understand the medium. Sometimes it could be video tutorials. So this part is done. Research and plan. Okay. When you have organize and draft, the first thing that you, when you are starting your rough draft, ensure that you have your organization templates ready. Every organization has specific style and template that you need to implement. Adhering to your style guides, I have made a video about style guides. I'll provide the link in the description. Have a look at it later if you can. Apply information architecture, and if make sure that your entire writing team has access to the resources such as templates or logos or any branding resources. Provide a link so that they can have access to that. Then you do information architecture. What is information architecture? It is understanding the perfect way of chunking the information, which information goes where, how are the information in the second page of the document correlate themselves or link themselves to document at the end of the document, the content available at the bottom of the document. So understand the architecture of the content so that it is easier for you to organize your content, structure it, the hierarchy of it. Then while to organize and draft, we obviously need to schedule interviews with our SMEs to collect information, and like I said, test environment of the application. I do that. Mostly I don't get a no there. It's always provided so that you can write the document to the best of your ability. And yes, develop your first draft. Okay, for me, improving the style lies in two simple ways: plain style, persuasive. If you are not sure about these two terms, have a look at the screen. Just try to understand. It's simple. Plain is nothing but a simple, easy way to get things done. It's to the point. It's minimalistic approach. Your only job here is to make the reader understand. Not it's not your job to persuade him to do something. It's something that the reader reads and executes. The second one is persuasive style. I understand this type of style is mostly used for content writing, where you need language that keeps your readers engaged, relates with their personal values, emotions. These could be your brochures, sales pitches, uh, presentations that you design for your clients. So that's the difference between plain style and persuasive style. So you do not decide at this point which style you want to apply, but rather you make sure that the written content satisfies either one of these styles. The writer needs to decide this: what kind of style do is this document going to be, and have I adhered to that? You improve your style, then you move to the design part. So I understand that you as a writer would be tempted to do this fourth step in your second step itself. Why can't I use all the designs that I want in organize and draft? Absolutely. If you have access to the content and information, why wait? But here you ensure not just the graphics part of it, you also ensure that the document is balanced. The document looks good. It is balanced, whether it is alignment, formatting. Each page needs to be balanced from right to left, top to bottom. What are some of the rules? Let's this one we already covered. Balance from right to, yeah. Images and words that need each other must be placed close to each other so they make sense. Then you have design features in the document. Yes, consistency. For consistency, what do you use? You follow your style guide. Again, if you have no idea about style guide, just research or have a look at the video. I'll provide the link in the description. Then once you're done with your designing, you come to the one of the most vital part of it: revising and editing the document. So my implemented DDLC, or yet to be implemented officially in my organization, starts with my technical review. I get the document reviewed by the either the SME who has provided me the information or a similar technical expert. I provide them the document, a copy of the document, a shared. In fact, it's collaborative these days. You can just collaborate the document that you're writing with. So the technical reviewer identifies any flaws if they exist and provide you the feedback and you fix them. Each time when you fix a technical flaw or any other flaw, whether it's language, grammar, you rectify that and until the reviewer says this is okay. Once you are done with your technical review, if it's an instructional document, you move to user testing. And I assign a non-expert of the document subject always. I assign a non-expert to user test the document in real time. How do I do that? I have a live meeting with the user tester where he or she shares the document with me or I share the document on screen and both of us are looking at the document at the same time, and the tester executes the instructions of the document and provides me feedback. I need to be on my toes in this part. Even if I feel the tester is struggling to follow some content, some part of the content, I try to simplify the language. I try to make the language more efficient. Right. So the feedback here is live. You as a writer, you need to note down each and every uh, gap or flaw that is coming out of user testing, and you work on that. The last part is proofreading must be carried out by another someone other than the author to identify and fix language mistakes. In my case, since I am an individual contributor, I provide this document to our marketing team. They may or may not have language experts, but that's the best option I have for now. So I get the document proofread by the marketing team. And once I have fixed the flaws, if any, and has been rendered okay by the proofreader, then move on to the publish and maintain part. Yeah, this part we have already discussed, attaining the sign off from the approver. For me, we have a knowledge base where we upload all the articles, documents, manuals, everything. So you publish your document there. And this is the maintenance part. We discussed this too. Track and update the document in line with product, process, applications development. The maintenance is part of a living document. If you don't maintain the document is dead. It is not living anymore. So this is a brief overview of DDLC and how it can be tailored as per your company's organization needs. Hope this helped. Use the comment section to ask me any doubts or correct me if you are experienced writers and you find some of my views on DDLC or explanation on DDLC out of the picture. Do rectify me. Always welcome. Hopefully the video is helpful here. And thank you. Have a nice day. Bye bye.